I want you to reflect for a moment. What was the best dragon fight in all of Soulsborne history? Because after conquering the Shadow Realm, there is only one true answer. An entity feared by most. None other than Ancient Dragon Man. I might be joking, but think about only a month ago when I said that Darkeater Midir was the greatest dragon boss fight of all time. And that is a tragedy of its own violation. But after witnessing the sheer dread that this expansion has to offer, I'm not entirely mad. Today we are going to gather the greatest Drake warriors the Lands Between have ever seen and conquer an absolute spectacle of a beast that lurks at the top of the Jagged Peaks. Grab your nearest Dragon-Hunting Katana, Tarnished, because we are talking about Bayle the Dread. I would like to encourage you guys to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the deep dives of stories across the Lands Between that we do here. It's the best way I can reflect and improve on the future, and I have a very big surprise at 100,000 subscribers. I genuinely appreciate all of you that have witnessed my growth on this channel, and I'm really proud to be a part of the Souls community. Before we can talk about the Drake of Nightmares, we need to talk about the journey to the top of Hell. Traveling past Castle Ensis Bridge, players will journey along a beaten, grassy path and venture a short way past the Pillar Path Waypoint Grace, where they'll be introduced to quite literally one of From Software's best additions and possibly now most infamous NPC known to people throughout the entire Elden Ring community and maybe even beyond. You approach on horseback to hear the blood-curdling cries and roaring curses that is
my legs! Each lies a bloody ruin! The pain. The exquisite pain.
the remarks of Egon, a fabled Drake warrior, a hunter, and pursuer of the limitless Drake power. Here he is lying in a ditch, missing a leg and screaming to the skies in a fit of rage against Bayle. Combing through his dialogue, he says,
Bayle! Vile Bayle! Oh, terror incarnate! There is life in me yet! I will soon feast upon your heart! Mark my words, you too shall know fear!
The sheer emphasis of his words would shake anyone's soul, but at the same time, you're wondering what the hell is he on about? Vile Bayle? Did he eat your leg or something? We are quite literally given no other context for this encounter at the time. Like, we don't even technically know his name yet in the story. Right now, he just seems like the embodiment of a man too angry to die. For now, we can't pay no mind. We get the rest of the Land of Shadow to explore. So let's just move on past the screaming homeless guy and... What the hell? Right after meeting Egon, we're already in another situation. Wait, close enough. Welcome back, Dark Souls Dragonstones. They are back. In all seriousness, this little invasion encounter isn't that bad. He's just like a normal NPC invader, but he carries a few standard Dragon Communion incantations. And with his cool shiny new dragon-themed Great Katana, which has a pretty sick Ash of War. Upon killing him, players would not get the really cool katana right now, but don't fret, as it's fortunately not the last time we get to see our rival, Ancient Dragon Man. In fact, let's go pay him a visit. After saying au revoir to Egon, a little bit even further down the path, you'll find the entrance into the Dragon's Pit, and low-key this does look a little bit like France. This cave is a slight yet very noticeable variation of the design from the base ones, and it's something worth appreciation. You still got rather standard layout with some random temple ruins strewn throughout, and you get to meet these funny looking ghost dragon guys, who may still pose a small challenge but are cool additions to the cave anyways. A few more turns and oh my god, why are they back? Out of all of the things they could have reused, it's these damn things. After killing it, you get a nice little dragon heart to add to your collection. And thank God we don't get the great katana behind a magma worm, unlike something like Moonveil, which by the way, we did a small retrospective on recently that you should go check out. Upon further exploration, you find this peculiar looking goblet with a chasm in the foreground and a message in front of it reading, "Be brave, show no fear." And knowing Souls games, that can only mean one thing. Landing at the bottom, you see nothing but a fog wall, and entering, you find none other than the GOAT himself, Ancient Dragon Man. Unfortunately, his fight doesn't differ much else from his invasion battle, except maybe he's more aggressive, but that might just be placebo. Anyways, after your fight, you were immediately awarded with the Dragon Hunter's Great Katana, a great katana with an even greater Ash of War. And it is also, something obviously implied by the name, really good at hunting dragons. What potentially could this thing now hold for us? I'm not sure, but we have access to a previously shrouded area, which will let the player ascend Olympus, the Dragon's Pit Terminus, the foot of Jagged Peaks. First, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer chaos that is taking place around us. You might think that the dragons of Caelid could jump in for a solid fight. You might even think that Placidusax was the destined dragon of them all. You might have also wondered if this gigantic dragon you meet shortly after the fight by heading to the southeast of the Ancient Dragon Man dungeon was something killed by a larger dragon. This dragon is so large that it is the large chunk of the map in this area. Bayle is so hated and feared that when you talk to the dragon priestess, she has this to say.
Warrior true, picture yourself feasting upon a dragon's essence, on the throbbing heart of the oldest, vilest dragon of them all. It would be the purest form of communion, the fullest sating of your hunger and your consummation as a dragon whole. Yes, as it should be. Now, seek the Jagged Peak. There you will find Bayle, the oldest and vilest of all dragons, land-bound warrior. Follow your desire and slay the foul beast. Devour its throbbing heart. I will grant you the strength required. In the name of my lord, Placidusax.
We might be able to make a guess that this priestess was Placidusax's priestess, but I also doubt it. After this, and heading back to the Dragon Man dungeon, and heading up to the west of the cliff, we all started the Great Ascent, but along the way, we just need to marvel at the environment. Pure orange clouds and furious red lightning raging all in the backdrop whilst we ride on horseback, climbing the rugged spikes of the mountain. We take a plethora of different jumps up further, anticipating our next foe. And after reaching the foot of the Jagged Peak Grace, just over the hill, we see the very first encounter. Two dragons fighting what seemed to be a heated turf war. No matter, we can just wait it out. And after that, we swoop in for a quick kill and slice another dragon dead. Kinda lame that they're pretty much the exact same as the base What the hell is that noise?
A warrior true, if ever one there was. A fellow Drake warrior. Egon. Piteous Egon. Do you not remember? Conjure your past how once you were, when fear was yet foreign to ye. Drake warrior, dear friend, grant me this one wish. Take this finger, my finger, scale the Jagged Peak, face Bayle the Dread, and when you do, summon me. Summon my soul. My limbs are limbs no more. My heart is twice over filled with fear. But a Drake warrior I remain. And my soul yet lies on the mountain.
Sweet. Now Egon is officially along for the ride after getting his nasty ass finger. The NPC is so damn cool, man, and the voice actor Richard Lintern has done a phenomenal job. He and Miyazaki should be proud. Also, speaking of Lintern, Miyazaki had him read the insane lines for over 6 hours, with a call to revise them a week later. But while he said he felt exhausted, which never really happens, he enjoyed his time there. That goes to show the type of dedication both of these men have, and the insane passion for his vision that Miyazaki holds. You can feel that breath of dedicated fresh air in every delivery from the voice actor, and Egon's chants have become legend in From Software's catalog to the point where every time I bring up the boss of today's video, you guys shout. So please, let's get one big shout of Bayle in the comments. Preceding this standoff of dragons, you continue your scale up the mountain to fight Bayle the Dread and go even further among the frenzying storm. You stumble across another foe to fell before your final confrontation. And it is yet another dragon, a variant of the other ancient dragons from the base game called Senesax. If you like the dragon fights in the base game, then I am really happy for you. But moving on, we have a beast directly from hell that we need to find. Not much longer now, as we ride up the remaining extremely steep hills. To think that this boss is completely optional in the DLC, and to think even more that it gets a completely unique environment with rolling boulders, jagged caverns with tons of verticality, but to top it all off, walking through the rocky, mountain roof entrance, you see an extremely vast and open plateau, populated with charcoal soil, an abundance of aged old corpses, and blooming red flowers. We approach the opponent that we've been waiting for this entire time.
Bayle the Dread, alright.
Oh, it's so chunky! How did that even fly? Okay, one shot it, I guess.
Holy shit.
There he is! Hi, Bayle. Whoa!
And ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly why we don't fight no dragons on the way up here. You understand me?
But there is a special guest that demands our attention and an audience with the very person that started our journey.
Curse you, Bayle! I hereby vow you will rue this day. Behold, a true Drake warrior, and I, Egon. Your fears made flesh. Solid of scale you might be, foul dragon, but I will riddle with holes your rotten hide with a hail of harpoons, with every last drop of my being.
Bayle! Vile Bayle! The terror incarnate has descended. Our fierce enemy has officially arrived head and center onto the grand stage, radiating and imposing, with a malevolent demeanor, ready to take you and Egon, the Drake warrior, in one last stand. With Egon's volley of harpoons and plethora of dragon communion magic, he has your six, but it's time to learn the matchup. Bayle starts off with a few attacks, like this rather standard fiery lightning charge bite, or just a straight beam of breath into a sweeping AoE form. He also features a rather simple two-wing swing combo, which honestly lets you get a few hits right after. He does feature a couple of other ones that all have rather varying lengths that may put off the player from learning them, one of them involving him imbuing his wing with fire lightning. This also gets kind of confusing because just like a Tekken character, he has some pretty weird mix-ups. During most of his combos, he can just straight up stop at any point of the attack if he chooses. He uses this jump move where he lands with a small explosion of balefire potentially catching the player. He also has this weird Baleblade reverse attack where he absolutely baits out the player if they're not careful, which is kind of funny considering he just has one working leg, and the other is a ripped off stump that somehow just lets him function. Speaking of that leg, that is also a prime weak spot for him, which does crazy poise damage if you can hit it hard enough. His head is also a big weak spot, but that goes without saying for dragon fights. Not to mention, if you stagger him, he is down for an absurdly long time. One thing a lot of the community didn't realize was that the great katana we received from Ancient Dragon Man was actually one of the best weapons to take Bayle down, because as we mentioned, look at the name. It's the Dragon Hunter's Great Katana, specifically made for fights like this. It does a whopping 30% more damage to dragon type enemies and a 15% to ancient dragon types. While it's certainly not a super intended gimmick like the Storm Ruler or Serpent Hunter, you can very much beat the fight without it. It is still very fun treating it as such and a very good weapon for base game and DLC. One more thing. Can we just speak on how he is fighting us with some crazy battle scars? Again, a whole leg is missing, and his wings and body look pretty damn scratched all around. Not to mention the beheaded dragon head permanently biting into his neck. What dragon is that, Evan? None other than our favorite base game dragon, Placidusax, ascended into the air with all but two heads missing. The two definitely had clashed in ancient times, and this is absolutely true with the evidence from the Talisman of Dread, stating, quote, Bayle was the foul dragon's name, a terrible harbinger of destruction, whose challenge to the ancient dragon lord ended in a grievous mutual injury. Placidusax is not only missing his heads, but is pretty scratched up overall too. It's still pretty ambiguous on who won that fight. Many think Bayle was ambushed, but it can't really be true based on that description. And also, despite taking immense damage, Placidusax induced some pretty dramatic injuries onto Bayle by focusing on his immobilization and going for his legs and wings. Let me bring that to you guys. Comment down below if you're Team Dragonlord or Team Dread. Anyways, whittling Bayle's health down around 50 to 60%, he does this.
Oh shit, phase 2? Oh! That ain't not bad! Holy!
You shall know fear.
Okay. So, Okay. Right.
Okay, he's going phase 2. Cinema! Okay, bye. Holy shit.
No! Wait, why did it not lock onto him? No! Come on!
If the dictionary had a word for the absolute spectacle of what it means to be fighting an ancient, almighty evil dragon, there would just be a single photo of Bayle the Dread. Because, wow, that was one of the cleanest and coolest introduction to a phase 2 that we have ever had. This guy is so damn powerful that he conjures himself a new pair of phantom lightning wings whenever he wants to unleash an absolutely devastating combo on you. Now, for a reaction like this, I had to ask somebody who was very pronounced on the lore what he thought.
I think my experience with Bayle is possibly one of the most memorable moments I've had with any game. I remember first hearing about Bayle in-game, as many will, when I stumbled across Egon in Gravesite Plains, screaming in pain, cursing out Bayle, and it really grabs your attention. As you approach the top of Jagged Peak, you hear more and more about Bayle, via the ghost at Elder's Shack for example, and your mind is just racing. Who is this dragon? Then you meet the dragon priestess who absolutely lore bombs you. Bayle was the one who wounded Placidusax, a dragon so mighty that he damaged the Dragon Lord himself. And so I climbed Jagged Peak, one of the most atmospheric areas in any game, and I just wanted to know what this monster was. Finally I made it, and having progressed Egon's quest, I knew I was meant to summon him, but I didn't know what was in store, and initially didn't think too much about it when I first summoned him. But when the second stage of Bayle's fight hit, I was genuinely overwhelmed by the visuals. This previously hamstrung dragon, who was previously limping around the arena, suddenly fills the screen with light and takes to the air, and lightning and all other types of fire attacks fill your screen. I'm pretty sure I just stood there and died the first time this has happened. It was just so much to take in. I was underleveled in regards to Shadow Tree fragments, and so this fight just took me a while. I just kind of got into a rhythm of it, and then halfway through this experience of fighting this boss over and over again, I kind of woke from my meditative state and realised, my god, this is cinema. With Egon's epic voice lines ringing in my ear and one of the best soundtracks encouraging me, I just had an absolute blast with this fight. It just feels good, looks good, and sounds good. And one of the best things is just that build up. Hearing about Bayle and climbing the Jagged Peak until you finally fight down this massive, bombastic dragon. And it's just a great fight that caps off an excellent DLC.
The attacks here are still relatively the same as phase 1, but with few changes. A lot of balefire attacks he now uses have an aftershock effect, which if you're in a weird position will definitely hit you. His jump attack is now way more delayed with a bigger aftershock too. This phase features a few new crazy attacks, a charge of his entire body slamming into the ground, imbued with a balefire AoE attack, and then an earthquake explosion which is insanely strong but can be jumped. There is also a pretty similar one where he'll turn the floor into lava, which will chain into an explosion. And then we finish it off with his strafing run. First he flies into the air and he hails down with a volley of balefire, which requires you to dodge into, and then flies back around with another volley of lightning breath, which can be hard to dodge, and you will have to do it at very precise timing. All of this in tandem with each other provides an absolute mesmerizing display of what From Software achieves when they push things to the absolute limit. And with fights like Darkeater Midir and Placidusax in the past, it is insane how they continue to top it yet again. Bayle's fight being this insane not only made me ask Smotown, but I also had to ask the man, the myth, the legend, Zyostorm, how he felt.
The fight with Bayle in Shadow of the Erdtree was one of the high points in Elden Ring as a whole for me. I think out of all the bosses in the DLC, Bayle holds the #1 spot when it comes to spectacle, especially if you summon Egon for it. It really feels like that team battle in the same way that the Radon Festival made a lot of the game's characters feel like they were actively in the fight and on that journey with you. And I really like when it brings them to life like that. But even as a boss fight, it was just a fun fight in general. I didn't think his moveset was overly frustrating, and even in the second phase it was generally easy to read. It was still challenging, but every time I lost I realized what I could have done differently. And that fight even capitalized on the lore in a way I really enjoyed. Being able to actually see the wounds from his battle with Placidusax, and even two of Placidusax's heads still being stuck to him. There's so much visual storytelling going on there. I can't say anything negative about Bayle. That fight absolutely had everything we love about Elden Ring and Souls as a whole.
Upon defeating Bayle, Egon says this.
Bayle the Dread, you shall haunt me no longer.
And you are rewarded with Bayle's Heart, an item you can commune with in order to get either his Flame Lightning or Tyranny attack, which is actually just pure arcane scaling for these incantations. They provide similar descriptions. Quote, even after being consumed, the throbbing heart of Bayle continues to resist its subjugation, never weakening. One day, the fire within will consume the very body and soul of its communion devourer. One day. If that doesn't radiate a sinister aura, I don't know what does. Upon returning to the Pure Communion site, the priestess is also gone. And if we backtrack our steps to the two drakes fighting, we bid a farewell to Egon, the epitome of a man too angry to die, but he finally was released from his cage of fury. So, that was the story of Bayle the Dread, that the community all experienced firsthand in the launch week of the DLC. I think when it comes to sheer presence and spectacle, not a lot of things even come close to this fight, and it instantly triumphs over every single dragon fight From Software has ever put out. It is not by any means a hot take, but it is crazy to see From Software outdoing themselves in every single piece of content they release and pushing the goalposts even further. I am excited to see what creature of chaos they will conjure up next. What will dethrone Bayle? My name is Evan, and hopefully, I explained that well. I will see you all in the next video.